The intuitive reaction to a Russian critic being shot dead in Poland is panic or outrage. The strategic reality, however, is that this was not a security blunder. It was a calibrated signal. Russia has shifted from shadow war sabotage to kinetic cross-border actions designed to test NATO's Article 5 red lines and force the alliance into a defensive crouch rather than an offensive posture. This event fits a pattern where attacks in Europe nearly tripled between 2023 and 2024, driven by intelligence services using local assets to probe for weaknesses without triggering full-scale war. The question is not how they got away with it, but what this test tells us about their next move. To understand the gravity of this assassination, we must look beyond the immediate shock of a killing on sovereign NATO soil and examine the data revealing a systematic evolution in Russian strategy. According to research from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, attacks by Russian operatives against Western interests nearly tripled between 2023 and 2024, following a quadrupling of incidents in the prior year. This is not random violence. It represents a deliberate shift toward high-risk kinetic actions within alliance territory. The primary actors behind this surge are units like the GRU, Russia's Military Intelligence Directorate, which has perfected a shadow war doctrine that utilizes local assets to maintain plausible deniability while simultaneously testing the cohesion of Western alliances. The specific choice of Poland as the target reveals the precise calculation driving this escalation. This was not an act of retribution against a single individual, but a probe into Western resolve designed to maximize political pressure on both Warsaw and Brussels. Poland currently hosts approximately 3.5 million Ukrainian refugees, making it a critical humanitarian hub, while simultaneously serving as the primary logistics corridor for military aid flowing into Ukraine. By striking inside this nation's borders, Russia forces NATO members to make an impossible choice: react with full military force in a way that could trigger Article 5 and risk broader conflict, or absorb the blow and appear weak on their own soil. This creates a structural dilemma where any response carries such high costs that hesitation becomes the most rational option for alliance leaders. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This dynamic is not theoretical. It has been modeled extensively by strategic analysts who simulate these exact scenarios to predict decision-maker behavior. Crisis simulations conducted in early 2022 predicted a natural pull toward escalation, or, conversely, a retreat into defensiveness when Russian forces strike Polish logistics hubs. These models suggest that fear and the confusion of an ambiguous attack drive human decision-making more than logic does. When leaders face uncertainty about whether to escalate further despite limited expectations of gaining a competitive advantage, they often choose caution over confrontation. The result is exactly what Russia seeks: a defensive crouch where allies hesitate to act decisively because the risk of triggering a wider war feels too high compared to the perceived gain from responding aggressively. The ultimate goal of this strategy extends far beyond Ukraine and into the very fabric of NATO's political will. This kinetic escalation occurs against a backdrop of overwhelming nuclear asymmetry that Russia leverages as a shield for its conventional aggression. With a stockpile of approximately 4,489 active warheads, 1,674 of which are deployed on high alert, Moscow maintains the doctrine to use nuclear weapons first in response to any conventional aggression threatening state existence. This creates an environment where Russia can escalate conventionally on the ground, while NATO hesitates due to the risk of crossing into a broader conflict that could spiral out of control. The shadow of nuclear retaliation allows for calculated risks on the ground that would be impossible without this backdrop of existential threat. This approach is driven by a specific incentive structure rooted in historical data regarding how conflicts end. Unlike the assumption that miscalculation or desperation drives these actions, Putin's strategy relies on the belief that continued combat remains more beneficial than negotiation for his regime. Research indicates that only 16% of wars between 1946 and 2005 ended in negotiated solutions, and of those settlements, 37% led to renewed conflict within just 2 years. This data suggests that Russia views fighting as a lower-cost option than the uncertainty of peace treaties, which often fail anyway. The assassination is part of this cost-benefit calculus, designed to raise the political price of supporting Ukraine for NATO allies until they opt out of the conflict, rather than risk direct confrontation with a nuclear-armed adversary. The statistics surrounding these operations further illuminate the sophistication and variety of tactics employed by Russian intelligence services in recent years. 35% of these attacks utilized explosives or incendiaries as weapons, indicating a move toward destructive capabilities that go beyond espionage. 27% targeted transportation-related assets, such as trains, vehicles, and airplanes, disrupting supply chains critical to European stability. Another 27% involved government entities, including military bases and officials, directly challenging state sovereignty. Additionally, 21% of operations targeted critical infrastructure such as pipelines and undersea fiber optic cables, threatening the economic foundations of NATO nations. Perhaps most disturbingly, 8% of these operations involved the weaponization of illegal immigrants, using human migration flows as a tool for coercion and destabilization on borders across Europe. These numbers confirm that the assassination in Poland is not an isolated incident, but part of a coordinated campaign to fracture alliance unity through cross-border kinetic shocks. The strategy relies on making every response too dangerous to ignore while ensuring no single event provides clear justification for a full-scale war response. By keeping NATO leaders guessing and fearful, Russia aims to erode the political will required to sustain long-term support for Ukraine. This is realpolitik in its purest form, using violence not just to kill an individual, but to alter the strategic incentives of powerful states until they change their behavior to suit Russian interests. The stakes here are defined by whether NATO can maintain a unified front against calculated provocation, or if these signals will succeed in driving a wedge between member states through fear and exhaustion. As long as Russia perceives that fighting is cheaper than negotiating, it will continue to escalate on the ground while relying on nuclear ambiguity to keep its adversaries from responding with equal force. The future of European security depends not just on military capabilities, but on the ability of democratic alliances to recognize these calculated signals for what they are and respond in a way that removes the incentive for further aggression. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.